Hi, and welcome to the Distinguished Twins podcast. I'm Kane.
And I'm Professor Anderson.
And let's see, I know we missed last week. We like to just take a little bit of time in between each show and just kind of let more material, form and
develop.
And
absolutely. And then I started school.
Yep.
Again, and so.
And I've been working on, things myself as well. But,
exactly. So sometimes we get a little overloaded.
Yeah, a little bit.
Of course, we love doing this.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely. But sometimes you got to take care of the more prioritized items.
There you go. Definitely.
So, but here
more
we are.
Urgent.
Yeah, more urgent. You know what I mean? It's a good thing, though.
Yeah.
No matter what. But I'm glad, here we are again.
Here we are.
Yes, sir.
15th episode.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Celebration.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Well, yeah, so you had something on your mind?
Well, yeah, I know many of us have probably already seen the story of the 9-year-old African-American girl who committed suicide in Alabama. And it was actually due to, I guess, racist and sexist comments from her classmates. And the unfortunate part is that her mother is suing the school district and the school, and she mentioned the African-American girl's teacher in the lawsuit, the school administrator, so on and so forth. And so here's an incident of bullying, racial discrimination, harassment, however you want to frame it. And unfortunately, it became too much for her to bear, and she felt that the best option was to take her life. Being a father of 6 children, understanding how bullies work and growing up and experiencing racism, my children experiencing racism, at some point, we have to be willing to build a national agenda where school administrators and teachers are more thoroughly trained on racial incidents and racial discrimination and really understanding the impact of such incidents, because in a lot of my research, what I do is I go through and I've read time and time again how those racial incidents can help to lower a kid's self-esteem. They're being called the N-word, and she was being called the N-word, the B-word, and all of these things, and the teachers never did anything. And I can remember my brother and I, once we moved from East St. Louis to Fairview Heights, and we started going to school at predominantly white schools, I can remember being called the N-word quite often. My brother as well. And the only things that we were told was to have thicker skin. The school administrators, they failed miserably to protect us. And to be honest, we experienced racial acts from them as well. We experienced racism from school administrators, from teachers. And the toughest part is that when you have individuals in positions of power, you're a child and you say that, okay, this is what happened to me, but then you'll have those individuals in positions of power attempt to pontificate over you and say, you know what, no, it didn't happen like that, it happened like this, I would know, and this and that, when then you're kind of voiceless as a child. But, there were some parents who just didn't play that. Some parents who definitely, they addressed it with school administrators. But we have to be much more willing to protect our children, much more willing to vet the teachers, the administrators, have those one-on-one conversations with them before it ever gets to this point. And I don't know the steps that were taken by her mother prior to her deciding to take her own life, but it's so unfortunate, so disheartening. It breaks my heart because, I remember I had my brothers, and so we were a little bit more supportive of one another, but I'm not sure what support system this young girl had. And so we were able to overcome it and push past it. But honestly, experiencing so much racism as a child, in sports growing up, even as an adult, in college, and even as a PhD student, experiencing racism from the institution that I attend. It inspired a lot of my research because I want to know not necessarily what causes it, but I want to know how can African American children protect themselves from racism, because if we look at this country's history, at no point have we ever been able to avoid or escape racism or racial stereotypes. And so for me, I want to know how can we build stronger children, right? And not have to repair broken men, as Frederick Douglass once stated. So again, it's a national emergency if you're a student, quote unquote, a student of color, because kids are going to face this constantly. And so, and I know there are other things that kids are bullied about and teased about that cause them to do the same thing. But I believe that, when it comes to racism, it's 2020. When do we design a more formidable plan to protect our kids? When do we hold teachers and administrators accountable, as we should, whenever these incidents come about? It should be taken extremely seriously. There is no reason why a child should be told to have thicker skin. And, a child should be told, well, it's okay, kids are always teased. Those things are crossing the line, period. So, at some point, we have to be able to come together and form an alliance. And it's not necessarily the onus of the students of color and their parents. When do we understand that white supremacy is what this country was built on, what this country is sustained on? When do we understand that? And then when are we willing to step up to say, you know what, it's my responsibility to help dismantle these systems and these stereotypes, and these cultural hegemonies that exist, truthfully, and racial hegemonies, truly. So, but yes, sir, that was on my heart, and it was near and dear because, of course, we experienced it growing up. My kids have experienced it already. It's no way we can escape it. I mean, it was so bad to where my family and we had to move because the school administrators weren't going to do anything about it. So again, how do we make this situation better for all kids? And we'd love to hear your opinions on that for sure.
Yeah, man. It's obviously growing up, like you said, we experienced it on a heavy level, and it altered our life path. And
it did.
That's essentially how we ended up in Arizona.
Yeah.
I do remember, my niece, your daughter Mia, when she would, walk home from school, and her school wasn't far from the house.
No, less than a mile.
These European American children cursing her and, calling her, racial epithets and trying to kick her and things like that, trying to make fun of her hair.
Yep.
And remember when the police
got
the police involved?
Yes.
And how did that story go?
Well, the police officer, he was a white guy, and whenever he got involved, the reason why he felt it, he was actually able to feel what was going on is because he had a biracial daughter. And so, when he spoke to my wife and I, he said like, I have a child, they've experienced some of these same things, and he said, so we're gonna put a stop to this, and so he felt it because it actually had impacted him in his personal life. And I'm grateful for that, and so he actually went and he said something to the mother and spoke to the kids who were doing the
bullying.
Yeah, the bullying and harassing my daughter. And so that situation, it ended up subsiding for the most part, but it didn't eradicate it. As later on something was said.
Yes.
And so you got parents, raising just terrible children.
Yes.
I mean, sorry to put it that way, but it's just the truth. At no point is it okay to be that way, and that's when parents have to step in and step up.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because of all of this experience of dealing with racism and, having to check your self-esteem, you know, because I remember being younger and feeling less than.
Yes.
But I can remember, of course, that's what a lot of my research is based on. But I can remember talking to my cohort members of my doctoral program and just telling them how much I envy them. Yeah. I told them, I envy the way that you can be concerned with other things.
Yeah.
Things that would seem so trivial to us.
Yes.
Because racism is very,
yes,
it's
takes precedence.
Awful.
Yeah.
It's a cancer, and we have to find ways to mitigate for it and address it and remedy these situations. But I looked at my cohort members, and they're studying issues in tourism and issues in national parks. And don't get me wrong, I think those are definitely important issues.
Yeah.
Which are maybe more near and dear to them.
Yes.
But what's very near and dear to me is,
trying to be treated as a human.
And trying to be treated as a human, and again, after so long, people would say, well, yeah, we gotta, we have to teach, people not to be racist. But I think the thing that could happen more quickly is how do we make stronger kids? Again, how do we build stronger kids?
Yes.
Because unfortunately, this is a very racist country. Again, never forget that this is the country that inspired Hitler. The racism of this country inspired Hitler to do what he did to the Jewish community. So again,
we just celebrated Martin Luther King, and he was assassinated by our government. Him along with other leaders as well.
Absolutely.
And what you can't count on is, and it's always sad, like you said, the onus is always on the victims.
Yes.
To try to figure out ways, and that's where we are.
That's where we are.
Because I don't think we can count on it from the top down.
No, absolutely not.
That is that's the plan: divide and conquer.
I mean, you have to understand that even when Brown versus the Board of Education happened, that was in 1954 when that ruling was handed down.
Yes.
To where it was ruled unconstitutional to have segregated schools. Mm-hmm. And it took until the mid-'70s, I believe, before most schools to fully integrate.
Yes.
And so, yes, you can pass this law, but how are you going to enforce it?
Thank you.
You're not stripping these schools of funding.
No.
You're not threatening to close these schools or anything like that if they don't adhere to the laws.
Yeah.
The laws are put in place, but they're not necessarily followed to a T, because again, I remember it was I believe the 14th Amendment or the 15th Amendment, or one of those, 14th or 15th, where it was, I believe the law was something about, I don't know if it was, I don't want to misspeak. It was something about maybe more integration or voting or being considering African Americans as citizens or something like that.
Yes.
But it wasn't until like a century later, until I forget the state that actually was the last state to actually ratify that 14th Amendment. I think it was the 14th Amendment.
Okay.
Which is embarrassing.
It is.
It's a law, but are you being held accountable for it? But again, the laws in this country were not designed for people of color. They weren't designed for the success or the betterment of people of color. And that, we're just being honest, because when a lot of these laws were designed, when the Constitution was written, African Americans were considered property. Mm-hmm. So at no point was it beneficial or saying that, you have the right to bear arms and you have these rights of freedom of speech. Those weren't designed for African Americans or other minorities, racial minorities. So, I mean, when you really think about it, again, when we look at this country and the way that it's designed, we didn't just wake up and get here. We didn't wake up and get to the point to where we still have extreme racism to where a child feels the need that the best option is to take her life. She has no other way out. She has no escape. She has no teachers or adults or school administrators that she can confide in and feel safe and protected by. But again, when you look at the DNA of this country, it's extremely racist. One of the most racist countries, if not the most. And unfortunately, a lot of people try to challenge that. Yeah. A lot of people get their feelings hurt whenever that's said, and they'll say, "We'll leave this country." That's not going to happen. Not going to get up and leave a country. Certainly, that was built by our ancestors. That's not the answer, because again, then this country continues to thrive on racism. So again, from the inside out, how can we fix this? And how can we face our truths? Yeah. And again, how can we remedy this? Yeah. That's just my thing. And again, I'm very passionate about this because again, it should never get to the point to where a child doesn't feel safe, doesn't feel protected, and she's surrounded by adults. Yes. It should never get to that point, ever.
Yeah, I remember when we were in school, like you said, we would tell administrators, and they say, "Oh, I can't believe this," or "Oh, that's mean," or "Get thicker skin."
Get thicker skin.
It's like,
being told by your principal.
Yeah. And like you said, it's at that point you're voiceless.
You're voiceless. What do you do?
Yeah. And if you do act out, then you're in trouble at school. And so
I can remember fighting because they, called us those words, and we were suspended.
Yes.
We were reprimanded, and probably more heavily than the offender.
Yeah.
The initiator.
Yes.
Instigator of the incident. So it's, again, they're like, "Oh, sticks and stones." I remember sticks and stones, and may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And it's like just a true blatant disregard for the history of these racial epithets and for the history of this country.
Let's go to science, where it shows that
true,
a verbal assault is just as impactful as the physical on the mind.
I would encourage anybody
to
take a look at Jane Elliott, the blue eye, brown eye experiment. Please take a look at that. If you have time, just Google it. It's on YouTube. But take a look at the blue eye, brown eye experiment, and you can see the impact of being ostracized or othered. And then she did it with a group of all white children. And the worst part about it, and this was it's so embarrassing when you look at it, because you had a lot of European Americans who were upset because of this experiment and the way that students were treated because of their eye color. Very upset. "Oh, it was harsh. How could you put kids through that?" Yet there's no concern for other racial minority children who are going through this daily, and it's their lived experience. It's not an experiment.
Yes.
It's a lifestyle. And you have to learn how to overcome it, or you will succumb to it. Unfortunately, like the young girl. So it's unfortunate, and at this point, I know her name, but I don't really want to say her name. But again, I think that it's
because at this point the name is irrelevant. It's she's a human being, obviously, and this is what other human beings like her can face and do face.
Yes,
not all, but when you start digging to the root of a lot of these things, and you start putting them under a microscope, you start to see just how prevalent it really is.
Oh my gosh.
And I would encourage everyone to educate themselves when you hear something that might make you uncomfortable that someone is claiming as truth.
Yeah.
If you don't like to feel uncomfortable, and instead of getting upset, prove them wrong.
Prove them wrong.
Whatever your facts are, just bring them to the table. And
that's it.
And I think it should always come to a point to where talk about it.
Yes.
Talk about it. I think, you've seen videos where people have been out in the public, one side against the other, and, you get, maybe one or two people that talk to one another that came out hating one another, but they somehow make some type of peace right then and there because somebody's listened to, someone's heard.
Yeah.
And so now they come to a common ground, and then there's that respect. So
exactly,
just be willing and open-minded, to learn and to just grow your mind, because truly, if you do carry these racist views, unknowingly, it's good to dig and figure that out and obviously rid them of your mind.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, truly, you can think of yourself as, better or however you want to, but you look completely foolish. And when it's all said and done, you'll be on the wrong side of history.
Oh, bottom line.
And that's not it's very painful for a lot of people to see a lot of this history that's been covered up.
Oh my God.
Let's just say in this country that has been covered up, and now it's coming to light, and it's very embarrassing.
Extremely.
For a lot of these people, because you were taught that you're perfect and you're superior and all these other things, and then you start to say, man, wow, maybe that's not the case.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow, look how they treated these people, and
yeah,
maybe my perceived advantage is not fair.
No, no, absolutely not. I mean, and we could speak extremely directly to it. You know, it's again, the laws in this country were not designed, for racial minorities. It certainly wasn't. The most advantaged position in this country would be a white male, Christian, heterosexual, to where that you don't face much discrimination, if any at all. But again, if you're a European American, period, you're very advantaged. You're very privileged, which is again why a lot of people are continually stunned by even European American women voting against their interests, in these political elections and so on and so forth. But sometimes privilege outweighs a lot of the things that you would think that would be
taken into account.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So you got to be able to protect it, and it would be again, we don't even talk politics. It's just it's a circus. Period. That's how I see it. It's a circus.
Yeah, just you can't expect. I understand voting, and I don't knock it.
Yeah.
But you have to take the mindset of no one person's going to fix your issues.
No,
it's not going to happen.
No, you elect these people, and here they go. It's amazing because I just saw this guy. He was 31. He's 31. I believe his name is Travis Fry. He was a captain in a prison.
Yes.
And they just Vice.com. They did research on him, and they discovered that he was a neo-Nazi.
Yep, I saw that.
He had penned 130 something additional posts in some neo-Nazi group, and I remember the teacher down in Florida.
Yeah.
And she's teaching a truly biased, inaccurate version of history.
Yeah.
And she was also affiliated with neo-Nazi groups.
Well, and then what I think a thing that a lot of people aren't aware of is European American men have always been the bad guy.
Yeah.
But they did have where European American women did have a chapter in the KKK as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And but then also on the flip side, they did also have, when they had the Black Panthers, they had a party called the White Panthers.
Yeah.
Who stood in solidarity with the Black Panthers.
I remember that. Yeah.
You always had people on the other side, but they're omitted.
Yes, they are.
Right. Because it's like you had the White Panthers, so you saw these people standing in solidarity, believing that they were right to fight for their, right to be human.
Look at the March on Washington.
There you go.
The March on Washington, there were plenty of European Americans out there supporting that with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes.
And, I remember looking at stories where, white men who had showed up to support, they had taken a day off from work, and some of them lost their jobs.
Yep.
They were called N-word lovers, by their co-workers and so on and so forth. And so again, when you look at it, it's so frustrating because you'll see the facts.
Yes.
But at some point, you got to start just talking to the people who will listen.
There you go.
I get paid to teach on these issues.
Yes.
But when I leave my job, I'm not teaching on these issues.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't have the energy to.
Yes.
It's very exhausting. It is, trying to, but I enjoy, talking about and discussing these issues with my students because they're mandated to sit there.
Yes.
And at some point, you could try to tune it out, but at some point you're going to speak up.
Yep.
And when I'm giving you cold hard facts,
yes.
at some point it's going to open your eyes, and I get it. At the end of every semester, tons of students who come up and say, "Thank you, Professor Anderson. I never knew so much
Yes.
of these things existed." But you have to be willing to conduct your independent research, and you also have to be willing. You also have to have teachers
Yes.
who are willing to bring that information.
Share the truth.
Share the truth. Because I can remember, standing there with a fellow professor, and she's just like, "Well, I don't know how to talk about these issues. Like it's like when I talk about them, they don't respond." And I had to tell her that, well, when you're talking about it, you don't feel confident when you're talking about it. So why would they feel confident or comfortable talking about the subject? So because I speak with so much confidence,
Yes.
and I have the facts that I can actually show my students firsthand, then it's like, okay, now we can have an intellectual discussion.
Yes.
I don't have opinionated discussions in my classroom. You either come with your facts or, just listen and learn.
I read a story recently with this guy he's a retired military veteran. The name of the article was "My Semester with Snowflakes" or something.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think he was in his 50s. He was accepted to Yale.
There you go.
He was, from what you could surmise from the article was he was a hardcore conservative.
Yeah.
He goes in, he's hetero, European American male, goes in, he's, describing these intelligent, all students are intelligent in my eyes. You're going to learn.
Yes.
There's something, that clicked in your mind. But he's sitting there with them, and they come from different backgrounds. There's different, races. And he was just floored because his hardened, shell and his views were penetrated so easily.
Yes.
When he walked in his classroom and he sees these kids that aren't filled with hate, but filled with questions.
There we go.
For one another, and filled with curiosity to where they're teaching one another with their own experiences. And he felt compelled to share this because he saw just how easy it was when he was open to and willing to have intelligent conversation with people that did not look like him, did not share the same views or experiences, but he gained this ultimate respect for not just them, but for human life at that point. And I thought it was beautiful. I just think we need to take that same concept and teach it to these children and stop hiding the truth from these children. They don't want these children to feel bad about what their ancestors may have done.
Yeah.
But you have to share this information so you can have these discussions.
But my thing is we certainly don't feel empowered just to only learn that our history starts at slavery.
Exactly, not at all.
Our ancestors were enslaved and they were abused and mistreated, and we should just feel grateful to.
Now we don't have a physical chain on.
Right, but the mentals are.
And that's powerful.
Right, and it's interesting that you say that because you have many conservatives who have a true issue with gender study classes, women's studies, African American, liberal arts. Liberal arts is the key. And that's the main one. And I remember asking a very, very high up official at my university. I remember asking him, what is it? What is it about liberal studies like that has people up in arms? Why do they feel like it's unfair?
Yes.
And he was just like, honestly, I couldn't tell you.
Wow.
I could not tell you. And this is an older gentleman. He's in his 70s, and you're talking about sharp.
Yes.
Very smart. If you name a university or college in this country, he knows somebody there.
Yeah.
He's very, very connected. But I remember asking him that question, and he was just like, I don't know. But from my opinion, I just believe that it opens your eyes. You know, when you get in, and again, like I said, I've provided information to tons of students because where I teach, 90 some odd % of my students are European American.
Yes.
Many are conservative.
Yeah.
And so when I teach, I've opened the eyes of tons of my students,
Yes.
tons of them, because of course now they're learning information that they've never heard.
Yes.
And you know, it opens their eyes. And again, why is liberal such a pejorative?
Yeah. Exactly.
Why is it because you believe in equal rights, you know, and human rights and gender rights?
You know, you have radicals on both sides on anything.
True.
You have radicals.
Yeah.
You know, but they highlight the radicalism.
Yes.
And so now, you know, it's polar opposites against polar opposites, and you know, you'll never get anywhere with that. It's
Never.
You're right, I'm wrong. You know, you got to have that middle ground. But
Exactly.
yeah,
And so-
and like you said, I think it's funny because when you look at liberal, you know, it's
Oh,
like,
my
they're like,
gosh.
oh, you're a liberal. First of all, I don't claim any political affiliation, none of that. But just take the word liberate.
Come on,
Right.
man. I mean,
so that's a bad one.
right?
like-
You know, I mean,
But you know, because it's not just a political term.
it's not.
You can be liberal in a lot of things that you do, and you can be conservative in a lot of things that
Exactly.
you do. But
Yeah.
everyone feels this need to attach themselves to a group, and you know,
It's so asinine and arbitrary. It really is. Like
is.
you go into these comment sections and
ugh,
the libtards and you know, and then people, you know, talking about the people who are pro Trump, and
yeah. It's like
that's not the issue in this country.
the issue is not that.
It's not.
But it's like when you're done arguing, where do we get?
Where do we get? Yeah, where's the progress?
Yes.
And so, yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And again, it's talking about these issues, again, of racism and why it continues to thrive and why it's so ubiquitous in this country. You know, you see the trickle-down effect. You see how it's still at the top. And then you see, again, how our kids can still be impacted and affected by it. And so, again, it comes back to that question of how do we balance things?
Yeah.
How do we even the playing field? How do we make it to where our children do feel protected? How do we make it to where all of our children do feel empowered by the curriculum that they're learning in schools?
Yes.
That's a big part of my research as well. It's a biased curriculum. And if you have a student who is already being raised by racist parents, that curriculum is only going to help to reinforce their perspectives, because the curriculum is in no way empowering. We're coming up on Black History Month, but it's just a run of the mill. It's the same proverbial characters who are talked about.
Yep.
You know, I would challenge any teacher, school administrator,
Yes.
have your students to research, you know, African Americans who,
Successful, who don't have this tag of civil rights and slavery.
exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
let's talk about, you know,
Granville T. Woods.
there we
right?
go.
You
And
know?
I forget the guy who invented the bicycle frame. He patented it.
Right, yeah,
First bicycle frame.
exactly.
know.
I forgot his name as well.
I-
I just saw it too.
Yeah.
I
I'm
just saw
like-
it again. It's
All of these things, like the woman who invented the GPS.
yes, what's her name? Glory. I think her name is.
Yeah,
I forget her last name.
but she, you know,
It's just so many characters.
touchscreen technology,
Yes, right.
video games,
Come on, man.
all these different things. It's like, do your research as a teacher, or don't call yourself a teacher. You are a chaperone, an overseer.
Yeah,
Because if you're not going to
a
teach
regurgitator.
a regurgitator, you know, where's your impact? I know it's essentially it's a bigger daycare at that point.
That's it.
You know, because I would take pride in, you know, teaching the truth.
Yes.
You know, and showing kids, you know, this, and then teaching them how to speak about things.
Yeah.
And, you know, have these discussions and learn, you know, intelligently. You know, rather
Absolutely.
than, you know, emotionally, or, you know, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the the transition point here, I know there's another thing that you wanted to
protect our kids. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All kids.
All of them.
All kids.
You know, bullying, you know, if we're going to amp it up on bullying, teachers and administrators have to be held accountable first.
100%.
Bottom line, if you're not teaching it, you're allowing it.
There you go.
So let's correct that.
Yes.
But yeah, another thing that, you know, I wanted to talk about was just be careful, I would say, with claiming a title that you have not yet earned. Mm-hmm. You know, I'll say for instance, you know, I can remember talking to people because, you know, we played football and I can remember being in college and people saying that they were going to this university or they were going to that university, and it wasn't true. Yeah. You know, and everybody knew it wasn't true, but they would just say these things.
Yes.
You know, you have people who want so hard to fit into a certain category because they want to be known as that.
Yes.
Being known as a tough guy, right?
Yeah.
You know, you got people who want to be known as that, but all they've ever done is just ran their mouths. You know, being great. You know, when you get up every day, you have to be able to be honest with yourself. Mm-hmm. And when you look in the mirror, what do you see? And based on what you see, with an honest conversation and an honest assessment with yourself, that should be a foundation, a baseline for you to build whatever image that it is that you want to have, but you got to put the work in. Mm-hmm. You have to earn it. You know, I can remember being in high school and guys, you know, saying, you know, oh, well, I'm going Division I and I'm going Division I, this and that. And everybody had desires to do that.
Yes.
But I can remember, you know, it was a desire of ours as well, but the difference is it was written in the newspaper. We didn't tell people to write this in the newspaper.
Exactly.
We didn't tell people to say, hey, make sure you say that we're Division I prospects and we're Division I recruits.
Yes.
You know, we didn't tell people to say that. We didn't tell people to write that we were NFL prospects, but they did.
Yeah.
You know, this was written, you know, and so you put the work in and then earn the title.
Yes.
You know, when it comes to being great, I remember a friend of mine said, do you think that I'm great at what I do? And I said, no. And he became very upset, you know, very upset. And then I'm like, well, you asked my honest opinion. I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah. You know, I feel that I work as hard as I do because I always had an accountability partner. Mm-hmm. My brother was going to push me regardless. It did not matter. No matter how successful I felt that I was, how in shape, you know, how fast that I thought that I was, he was going to push me to get even more out of me. And I hated it at the time, but I appreciate him dearly because he brought the greatness out of me. And so when I look and I say, okay, do I feel like I'm great? Absolutely. You know, I feel like I am, and that's just my opinion of myself. And I believe it because I put in work and I've accomplished some things that a lot of people haven't accomplished. You know what I mean? And so, but I'm not better than anybody. No. Okay, it's just it's a title that I like to wear. Yes. For myself. But again, you know, be careful with trying to claim these titles. You know, push yourself, work harder, do whatever that it is that you have to do to earn that label or to earn that title. But don't just call yourself something and get mad at people when they say, well, nah, if you ask for their opinion. Everybody's going to have an opinion. Yeah. But if you ask for their opinion, you obviously value their opinion. Yes. And once they tell you whatever it is that they have to say, then you got to live with it. And if it means that much to you, work to prove them wrong. Yes. That's it. So, again, it's too much of that going on. You know, it's a lot of people want to be affiliated with certain things. They want to say that they're from a certain place. Yep. Or that they're a part of this group or affiliated with this group, and you have not put the work in. Yeah. So again, put the work in. Work your butt off to earn that title that you so desperately want. Mm-hmm. Don't just wake up one day and say, I am this, and I'm going to become offended if somebody says that I'm not this. Yes. You know, if you're an intellectual, read. There you go. Read a lot. If you want to become an intellectual, read often. Think for yourself. Mm-hmm. Come up with your own original thoughts. And I'll tell you one thing, it's amazing to me. Amazing. And maybe I'm deviating a little bit.
Go ahead.
If you're on social media, please, if you quote someone, please give credit
Thank you.
to that.
Gosh.
And as a professor, as a researcher,
As a student.
everything that I do, I have to ensure that I give credit. I have to cite my source.
There you go.
And it really taught me about integrity.
Yes.
Please stop stealing quotes.
And stop, you want people to view you as this deep thinker and,
Yeah,
this
there's intellectual,
this
a
intellectual.
philosopher.
But the real intellectuals are looking at you with their head like that puppy.
Like, come on now. Like, this is,
What are you doing?
you're stealing
You're
quotes.
stealing.
I mean, please don't be so desperate to go viral
Please.
that you're stealing other people's quotes. And it doesn't even have to be a famous person.
Yes.
I literally saw a woman. I saw a quote about this Tyler Perry film and everything, and I saw this woman literally take it and put it on her page as if it was her own.
Yes.
And she has a lot of followers. But I'm like,
Cite your
right?
source.
Cite your source.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Cite your source. We all have some intelligent things to say. We all have some original thoughts.
Yes.
Share what you know.
Yes.
And if you're going to take a quote, please cite it.
Yeah.
And, you got a lot of people want to look like intellectuals, sapiosexuals, and all these things. And it's like, oh,
the
my
people
gosh.
who, they see it on the meme, so now they write it
Yes.
in text and post it.
Exactly.
It's like, I don't know. It's like, I just cannot, I can't understand it, because I don't know why I can't understand it, but it's like, just don't be so desperate for attention or that validation that, you start plagiarizing.
Yeah. I mean, and you can understand it. You just don't agree with it.
Yeah.
You understand why they do it.
Yeah, but I don't know, because I don't know.
I mean, and personally, I think it has to do something with self-esteem. Not to take any jabs at anybody, but I think that it does. Because if you felt confident in just your original thoughts, you wouldn't feel the need to steal other people's quotes.
True story.
And fail to cite them.
Yes.
You want to pass them off as your own so people can say, oh man, that was deep.
Yeah.
Oh, that was smart.
Exactly.
And that was clever. And so, but you got to earn it.
Yeah, and if you steal someone's quote, then I could say, it might be a character flaw. You might,
Yeah.
try to take credit for, someone's, real life work, or I don't know. It's,
Yeah.
you got to just check yourself on that.
You got to.
have
You got to check yourself. Just be real with yourself.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like you were saying, make sure that you have gotten to that point before you start claiming things. And I think it's also another point too. You can speak things into existence.
Certainly.
So you can call yourself, great.
Yes. Yes.
If your work ethic is supporting it.
Come on now.
Don't just lay in the bed and say I'm great.
No.
Like, put that work in.
Yeah.
Because I'll look at you like, well, your action doesn't support that.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to be known.
No.
If I see this guy run in my neighborhood every single day,
Man.
and he runs at a snail's pace.
Yeah.
But I've been seeing him run consistently
Yeah.
for, I want to say, about a year.
Okay.
That to me is great.
Oh, that's great.
That is great. And I've never had a conversation with him.
You're doing something that most people won't do.
Thank you. Exactly.
There you
And
go.
that's commitment.
That's commitment.
It's everything. But I've seen him drop weight. So I can only, speculate and say his diet's probably improved.
Yeah.
All these other things because he's committed himself to it. So I can say, man, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So I can only imagine what else you commit yourself to in your life.
Exactly.
And, where you have brought yourself from, maybe professionally from a year ago.
Yeah.
That's what I can speculate.
There we go.
I don't know him. However, the action precedes, you know.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to see that. It's motivation.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, here he is, very consistent.
Yes.
Working hard, obviously has goals.
Yes.
I mean, that's motivation to say, well, I don't have an excuse.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I better get up and put in work every day.
Yes.
You know, I marked it down. I wrote down how many days I have until my deadline to defend my dissertation orally.
Yes.
And so I'm like, I gotta go.
Yeah, you gotta go.
I gotta put the work in daily.
Man.
You know, if I'm tired and I need a breather, okay, take a breather, but get back to it.
There you go.
Immediately. So, but again, you know, you have to be willing to, again, put the work in. Stop claiming titles, you know, that you haven't earned. Be comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah, and just be willing to go get what you want.
Go
You want
be
people to
willing, yes.
view you this way, work for it.
Yeah, I mean, don't call yourself a business person if you never run your own business.
Yeah, like you're not conducting business. Or
You haven't been out there. It's hard.
very,
Oh my gosh, it's
very hard.
very difficult. I see so many people lose money all the time
Yes.
because they weren't prepared, or it's just not the right market, or whatever it may be.
Yes.
But you know, earn it. Earn the title.
Yeah.
Earn the title. When you have no overhead, you have no risks.
Yeah.
You don't have your own business.
Yeah.
Sorry. There has to be risks involved. There has to be, you know, basically, there's gonna be some sunken costs.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So at some point,
Yeah.
you know, and but if you don't have any of those things and you can sleep well, and sometimes forget about it,
Yeah.
don't have your own. You're not a business owner, and that's okay.
That's okay.
You know, if you're pushing someone else's business, that's fine.
Yes.
You know, but think for yourselves and don't just go by the labels that are given.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like for me. You know, like I say, when I think about slavery, there were no slaves.
No slaves.
People were enslaved, and then you had enslavers.
Yes.
Be careful. Like the words that you use are powerful.
Yes, they are.
You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's just semantics, this and that, tomato." No, it's not.
No.
Because there's a connotation and there's power in words.
Yes.
And so you can't say that, you know, well, you know, they freed the slaves and no. These people were enslaved.
Yes.
Most held against their will.
Yes.
Many did hang around and work after slavery was abolished because what else were they supposed to do?
And they were born into it. What
Exactly.
Else do they know?
What else do they know? I was looking at this professor, I believe at Augusta University, and he was talking about the black cowboy. The first cowboys were black.
Yes. And Latin American.
Yeah, Latin American and all of that. You know, and so they called them boys.
Yes.
You know, they were the ones who tended to the cattle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so if you really understand and do your research, you understand, you know, where a lot of these things originate from. Not just what it is modern day and what's been appropriated,
Yes.
culturally appropriated, and now all of a sudden people are shocked,
Yeah.
you know, and offended whenever you bring historical facts.
Yes.
So, but yeah, so again, earn those titles,
Yes.
earn those labels, put your work in, put your work in. So, yeah. So yeah, that.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. You know, when you brought that up, I was like, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, once again, it just comes down to, man, you gotta just be willing to do it. You know, don't just claim it because, you know, even if you receive some great feedback, like if I post today and say, oh, I got this job, you know, and people say, congratulations, I might start to believe, like, I got this job. you know?
Right?
But that I don't have a paycheck coming from this job. So,
Come on now.
you know, you can say anything,
Yeah.
you know, but just make sure, like I said, you working in that direction and get it first.
Yeah.
You know, and then,
Come on now.
you know, people will recognize it. You know,
Come on
you
now.
don't have to, you know, lie and try to make yourself seem like you're something you're not.
Yeah.
Be comfortable, like you said, with who you are and what you have, you know, and use that and go for what you want. So,
Yeah. Bottom line.
but yeah.
Totally agree, brother.
So yeah, with that being said, yeah, I don't have anything else to share. You?
No, sir. No, like I said, that's again, what do we do to protect our children?
Yes.
You know, the psychological damages that are done because of racism are extremely heavy. So again, how do we protect our children from that said racism and other forms of bullying as well? When do we step up and hold teachers and other school administrators accountable?
Yes.
No matter how much money her mother may win in a lawsuit, or anybody's parents may win in a lawsuit, they'll never get their child back.
Yes.
And to lose that life is irreplaceable.
Yes.
So more accountability is needed. And then lastly, you know, if you want a title, earn it.
There you go.
Bottom line, you know, I'm a college professor. I earned that.
Yep.
I'm not a doctor yet. I haven't earned it yet.
No.
You know, hopefully I'll earn it within the next few months.
You will.
And I will. But I don't call myself doctor. You know,
Yeah.
I have other people who do because they want to speak it over me, and I'm appreciative.
Yeah, you receive it.
I receive it, and I will be, but I'm not a doctor yet, so I won't tell anybody I'm a doctor. So,
Exactly.
yeah. But with that being said,
Yeah, with that being said, thank you to whomever is listening.
yes,
Always appreciate the support.
always.
No matter what. And one thing I want people to understand is, you know, we do this because we love this.
Love it.
And we want to speak on topics that aren't mainstream.
Exactly.
And also, you know, this is for, you know, others to hear, but it's also for us.
Yes.
You know, our children see these things.
Yeah.
20 years from now, our children will see these things.
Exactly.
It's very important. So we have fun with this.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, no matter what, you know, as we do it, we don't worry about, you know, a fluctuation of support or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for anyone. Whatever you're doing, do it because you love it. And if
There
you
you go.
claim you love it, you're going to continue to do it.
Bottom line.
You know, without anyone's validation. And you know,
At all.
like I said, we've gotten great feedback from others, and you know, we're gonna keep on going and keep on doing it. So once again, thanks for the support, and we will see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.